Welcome to today's lecture on infinitive plus mean, the energic nun, and the verb yachol yuchal. Let's begin by looking at infinitive plus mean. Preposition mean can attach to an infinitive as a prefix, and when it does so, it can indicate one of two things. Both of these functions should be familiar to you at this point in the course. The first function is different from what you would expect in English, but we've encountered it so far when mean occurs in a comparative statement. Let's begin with number one. Gadol avoni min so. Great is my iniquity from carrying, where niso, an o vowel pattern, is an infinitive form of nasa yisa. But here it indicates a statement of comparison. My iniquity is too great to carry. Or number two, Tov lanu avod et Mitzrayim mimutenu ba midbar. Good for us to serve, an infinitive, to serve Egypt from our dying. Again, this is an infinitive. The infinitive form is mut, from met yamut. You have an attached pronoun, and then preposition mean. From our dying in the desert. But again here, mean indicates this is a statement of comparison. It is better for us to serve Egypt than for us to die in the desert. So this is one function of mean. When it prefixes to an infinitive, it indicates that this is a statement of comparison. The other function of mean is to indicate the action from which someone has changed course. So number three, vata'amod miledit, where ledit here is an infinitive from yalad yeled, to give birth. And she stood from giving birth means she stopped giving birth. Where if you ever want to say someone stopped doing something, you use the verb to stand, amad ya'amod, preposition mean, and then an infinitive form of whatever that person stopped doing. And number four, vayered me'asot ha'chatat, means, and he came down from making the sin offering, where chatat is a noun that either means sin or an offering to atone for sin. And here you can translate this very woodenly, and it makes good sense in English. He came down from making the sin offering, where making the sin offering is the action from which he has changed course. He's done making the sin offering, and now he's come down. So, mean can prefix onto an infinitive. When it does so, it indicates one of two functions. One is that this is a statement of comparison. The other is the action from which someone has changed course. And next, the energic nun, where I have energic in scare quotes. Let me explain this phenomena before I say why I don't particularly like the name of this phenomena. What this refers to is a nun. You will see it sometimes on two forms of the yiktol. It can occur on either an atem yiktol form or a hem yiktol form. Now here's a verse that has three instances of an atem yiktol verb where you're used to seeing these kind of forms end in a shurik. So this one ends in a shurik, this one ends in a shurik, this one has a shurik, but after that you have this nun. So, okay, when you see a nun on the end of an atem or hem yiktol form, what are you supposed to think of it? One way of thinking about it is that it's this energic nun, where these forms can either take the nun or not, and when they take the nun, it may or may not mean something. If it means something, probably people are going to say it is emphatic. And I don't particularly like the view that these are emphatic forms. One good reason is if Hebrew has this way of speaking emphatically using Yiktol verb, why are the emphatic forms relegated to only the atem and hem forms? What about all the other forms of the Yiktol? Can you not speak emphatically using those? The other reason is that I actually think this is simply evidence of an archaic longer form of these Yiktol verbs, where the atem and hem forms used to end in nun, and then over time they didn't end in nun, and then there's this transitionary period. And so the nun carries no semantic value. The nun is just evidence of an archaic longer form. So I have two verses where you'll see at least one atem or hem Yiktol verb with a nun. I don't think there's any exegetical payoff as far as recognizing these forms. I only mention this so that you won't be thrown off by these forms when you see them. Lo tochlu mimenu velo tig'u bo pen tmutun, where God commanded Adam and Eve, you shall not eat from it, and you shall not touch it, lest you die. And number 6 is a verse from Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy actually has a fairly high occurrence of these nun forms compared to other books of the Bible. Elohim asher lo yir'un ve'lo yishme'un ve'lo yochlun. Gods that do not see and do not hear and do not eat. So, this point is that you can see atem or hem Yiktol verbs that have a nun sophit, whereas according to the chart so far, you've only been taught to expect a shurik. When you see it, I don't think there's any exegetical payoff. The rationale for it is that it's evidence of an archaic longer form. And finally, let's look at the conjugations of the verb yachol, yuchal. This verb gets a special cameo in these lectures because it is funky. It is funky because it does not sound like any other pa'al verb. Yachol, yuchal is a pa'al verb, but the initial vowel patterns are unlike any other pa'al verb. In the katal, this here, cholam, in this place, is unlike any other pa'al verb, and in the yiktol, this initial shurk is unlike any other pa'al verb. But if once you get over the fact that it's funky and you memorize it this way, yachol, yuchal, and you just take these initial vowel patterns through the paradigm, you can be able to produce this paradigm without much difficulty. Yacholti, yacholta, yacholt, yachol, yachla, yacholnu, yacholtem, yacholten, yachlu. So, the funky thing about the katal forms of this verb is that usually you'll have this second cholam. Another thing here, notice for the hu form, it has an a-o vowel pattern, and we're used to seeing for pa'al verbs that an a-o vowel pattern indicates that this form is an adverbial infinitive. And sure enough, the adverbial infinitive form of this verb is yachol, and so only context will be able to determine whether this form is a katal verb form or an adverbial infinitive. Let's look at the yiktol forms. Remember, you have your initial shurik and u-ah vowel pattern, but if you memorize it this way, you can take it through the yiktol chart quite simply. Uchal, tuchal, tuchli, yuchal, tuchal, nuchal, tuchlu, tuchalna, yuchlu, tuchalna. Another unique thing about this verb is that it has no participle forms. It uses the yiktol to talk about present or future tense ability, where nuchal here could be either we are able or we will be able, and only context can decide as far as how you should understand that. Interestingly, modern Hebrew has actually developed participle forms for this verb. Let's look at a couple verses using this verb. Here is a past tense statement of ability, so it uses the katal form. Lo yachlu lishtot mi haor. They were not able to drink, where this verb it's almost always followed by an infinitive to finish the verbal idea of what someone was or was not able to do. Here, they were not able to drink from the water of the Nile, where here, me is a bound form of mime. How do you say the water of? You say me, and then here, or, the water of the Nile. Number 8 is present tense statement of ability, and so it uses the yiktol. Lo tuchlu la'avod et Adonai. You all are not able to serve Yahweh, where the translation here of are not or will not be able to do something is really only something you can tell from, even here, the broader context. So this is a kind of funky verb, yachol, yuchal. It doesn't sound like any other pa'al verbs, but it goes through the katal paradigm with the inflectional endings, just like other katal verbs, and it goes through the yiktol paradigm with the inflectional prefixes, just like any other yiktol verb. The other funky thing about this verb is it has no participle forms. It uses the yiktol to talk about present and future tense statements of ability.